Welcome to the Scrum Project Evaluating Agile Methods presentation as part of the ISM643. Professor Murad is my instructor, and this is Ed Sigamani. Video recording my presentation. The deck has been already uploaded in the Waypoint. With that, let me walk you through the agenda for today's presentation. We have, to begin with, we want to talk about the main characteristics of the Agile projects, one different methodologies that we use under Agile, and the differences between Agile and the traditional waterfall methodologies. We will also explore the best practices of applying the Agile methods into the project management. We will also go through some benefits, personally, what I have seen in the Agile project management in my organization, and I will give you some examples to substantiate that as well. And finally, the Agile techniques that influences leadership of me being a project manager. First, let's talk about the main characteristic of Agile projects, Agile methodologies. Number one is the Agile is incremental. It breaks the entire project into multiple small phases and does that works built incrementally and releases incrementally. This is totally in contrast with the traditional waterfall methodology. And as you can see in the visual here, it delivers incrementally instead of all at once. And it'll have a lot of collaboration, a lot of conversation happens between the team, the product owners, the scrum masters, the development team, the business stakeholders. And there's a lot of improvement opportunities that you can find in the project because we are iterating. We are able to miss something and able to catch up in the next iteration. It keeps repeating again and again. And as you can see here in the second visual here, it's what we call an iteration or a sprint. It's a repetitive. It's a cycle that has its own planning activity, its own execution, its own evaluation, or what we call it, demonstrating the working software to the stakeholders. We're able to capture the feedback and apply that in the next sprint. So we are not waiting for the final one in the as in the waterfall methodology. So this is flexible, repetitive, and cost saver. One of the huge advantage of project management is using Agile. Now let me give you some idea on differences between Agile and Waterfall. Agile focuses on the customer, as I said, and the requirements that they produce, the value that they bring in. It can adjust its requirements and absorb the changes as we go. We does not to wait for change requirement. And also it builds in increments, as I said before, and therefore we can realize the return on investments much earlier in the project as the releases starts beginning the beginning itself. And it's very frequent, very iterative delivery. It doesn't wait for the final delivery, very frequent delivery by dedicated team of project owners. Well, in waterfall, it is a long cycle with very less revision opportunities. It is adamant, little more stubborn policy, and the return on investments can be realized only after the end of the project, which could be yeah, even sometimes years. It's not like Agile, and so the ownership can change during it's a long, lengthy project. So that's the thing. Let me give a visual to explain it a little bit more here. As you can see on the top right corner, the agile methodology, and the bottom I have the traditional delivery here. At the bottom in the middle I'm putting together a 12-month project, let's say. As you can see in the third month, the agile is able to release something, and able to produce something to the consumer. This we call minimum viable product, MVP. And then 6 month and 9 month and 12 months. So by the time the project finishes, we have already started realizing the product return investments from the third month onwards. While in contrast to the traditional one, you can see the requirements happens in 3 months, analysis take another 2 3 months, and implementation takes another 3 months, and verification testing takes another. Finally, at the 12th month only you're able to release it, which means that we can realize the return investments, and any requirements coming along, it's done in the third month. If any requirement changes between third month through the 12th month, it's impossible to accommodate that. So those are some disadvantages we have in waterfall. Let me give you some best practices on applying the agile methods. What we call agile manifesto. Agile has released agile manifesto. Between individuals and interactions and process and tools, we will choose the individuals and interactions. Between a working software and a comprehensive documentation, agile recommends to choose the working software. Between customer collaboration and contract negotiations, choose the customer collaboration. between responding to change and sticking to following a plan, respond to change, pivot. That's the agile. So I'll give a visual here. As you can see here, what's on the left side is more valuable than the right side. It's not that we don't want to do that, but between these two options, we value the one on the left side is more than the right side. This is Agile Manifesto. And as I said, I want to give you some examples of benefits that I have received in this one. So team is flexible and easily to adapt the change. For example, the project that I have led in Agile, there are 11 times the requirements changed, and team is able to accommodate that because throughout the project we have multiple iterations, we're able to accommodate the changes. Whereas in waterfall, I would not have been able to imagine even um, taking 2 or 3 requirement changes. So that's really good. The second benefit I've seen is the control over the project is much better here. The successful completion of the project is at the enterprise level. We've seen a 40% increase in successful completion, less failures, and so this is really good. These are the very first few years of the accommodation of the agile into our company. The third benefit is the speed to market, right? So as I said before, it's very critical that we don't wait for 12 months or a longer period, longer cycles to speed to bring a product to the market because the requirements could change, the consumer mindset could change, market could change, tax could change, economy could change. COVID came and changed a lot of things. So we need to be very nimble and thoughtful in bringing the product to the market as early as possible. So Agile allows that to happen, while Waterfall does not. And then the one best option is to early detection of the defects because we have iteration. Every iteration has testing within as an ingredient in it. Well, waterfall has the testing at the very end, so we are able to identify the defects at the very end. But here we're able to identify the defects earlier. That means early fixing. That means the project is much more quality wise than the waterfall. And then I want to close it by saying that the two skills that I have expanded on learn more while managing this projects is one is scope slicing. I know it's a tongue twister, scope slicing, and then the negotiating skills that I've worked on a little bit more on what I usually have. Scope slicing, as I mentioned before, is where we can need not wait for the entire scope to be executed upon, but instead we work with the customer, the business owners, and identify the minimum viable product, the product that we need to go, and then we can cut down the slow scopes, what need to be part of that, and then we prioritize them, and then we release them. That's one thing. And then negotiating skills, right? So we need to be find a middle ground between the business and the development team and work together along to side and say that what we want to do, schedule, priority, what value, all these things move together and see what we want to achieve, right? If you want to achieve by particular end of the quarter, what are the things that we can deliver instead of deliver everything and miss the date. So we can negotiate. That's really enhanced on that. With that, I want to conclude this and see if you have any questions. I can take it up. If you have any questions, here are my reference page for the work cited. Any questions, give me let me know. But thank you very much for working up on this. I appreciate it. Thank you.